When it comes to the early stage SaaS founder's journey, there are some key inflection points you go through, especially as you go from zero, having no revenues, nothing, to that unstoppable 10 million ARR point. There's some very key inflection points. And a lot of times as first-time founders, we aren't always told about these inflection points, and we make costly mistakes for no good reason. And so in this episode, I'm going to walk you through what those inflection points are from a revenue perspective. What are some common pitfalls that come up that you need to watch out for? And also, what are the things you need to be focusing on, and what are the things you just don't need to worry about until later, so that you're more likely to get to that next inflection point and that next stage of growth. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS businesses faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you are new to this channel, welcome. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and that bell icon, because that way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode like this, which contains actionable strategies to help you grow your SaaS business faster with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this channel, if you're part of my SaaS coaching programs, my people, welcome back. It's so awesome to see you over here. All right, so in my own journey as a founder, ToutApp, I took it from 0 to 7 million ARR. And then we sold it to a company called Marketo. And I joined Marketo's executive team as their SVP of strategy. And it was crazy. We went from that 7 million ARR business to being in the executive team of a 400 plus million ARR business. And then we sold Marketo to Adobe, and now I coach SaaS founders in this early stage. We have founders anywhere at like pre-revenue all the way to, I think that our biggest one right now is at around 75 million ARR. And so I have a pretty wide view of over 100 founders that I coach on all the different inflection points that they're going through in the journey. And so from my own journey, I've learned a ton. And from coaching others, I've also seen a lot and also learned from that as well as we figured out different problems that we've come across. And what I learned is that there's some common pitfalls that come up, common inflection points that come up. And so in this episode, I want to dig into what those inflection points are, specifically for the 0 to this unstoppable 10 million ARR level. What my hope is that if you can get a preview of this journey, one, your belief goes up, which means that it's possible for you if others have done it. Two, you can avoid some common mistakes. And three, hopefully in this Shawshank crawl to product market fit, to that next stage of growth, you're going to be able to accelerate your path, knowing the path ahead. And that's what my hope is for this video. So if you're excited to dig in, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's get right into it. So firstly, let me just orient you. When you're at 0, the biggest thing for any SaaS business is to get to this unstoppable 10 million ARR level. It's called the unstoppable 10 million ARR level. This has been something that Jason Lemkin, the godfather of SaaS, whom I learned a lot from, always has talked about, is if you can get it to 10 million ARR, you're unstoppable. It'll compound. Everything will work. And it's true, especially if you look at SaaS businesses today. In fact, one of the sales engagement players, SalesLoft, I was just watching this on LinkedIn, they just hit 100 million, which is incredible. And so it just goes to show that if you can get it to that 10 million, then you'll be able to get it to the 100 and you'll be able to get it to the billion. That's the beauty of SaaS. And so the question becomes, how do you go from 0 to 10 million ARR, right? It seems like a big climb, it's compounding revenue. And so this is where it helps to chunk it down. And so we'll walk you through what it looks like. The first inflection point is how do you go from 0 to literally just some revenues. When you have some revenues, the next inflection point is how do you get to 1 million? Once you have 1 million, the next inflection point is to get to 3 million. Once you have 3 million, then it's to 7 and then it's to 10. And if you can chunk down your journey, and there's no speed limit to go through this. There are some companies that have blazed through this. There's some companies that took a little bit longer. That's okay. But if you can chunk it down, it'll help you navigate the different things that happen to your SaaS business so that you're prepared for it. That's the first thing. These are the big inflection points you're going through. The first thing that you really want to hone in on if you're in this stage where you don't have revenues yet and you're really trying to figure out like, what do we do? And you're building the product, a lot of people, what I found is they over-index. Like they'll apply to join my go-to-market program and they don't have any revenues. And we always say like, you're too early. The go-to-market program is about scaling. It only works when you know you've got that product market fit and we can double down on it. Until then, you have to do a bunch of unscalable things. And so the counterintuitive thing to really understand is to go from the zero to some revenues, you're doing a series of unscalable activities. This is unscalable activities and how you're reaching out to people, doing it manually, calling in favors, breaking down doors, cold calling, whatever it takes. This is unscalable activities on how you're onboarding people. You want to do as much white glove as possible so you can learn as much as possible. Basically, you're doing everything that is breaking the rules just so you can get to that initial revenue. And you might be thinking like, no, we got to make it scalable. This is one of the biggest pitfalls that kills companies before they even stand a chance to even get to $1 million. It's that they're trying to build up a lot of scale over here before they've even proven anything about the market or the product or any sort of fit. And so it's premature. And a lot of companies get stuck in trying to build up all this scale without really working on the core thing that matters. Like, is anyone willing to pay us $1 for this even if we begged for it? And that's what you're really trying to get to this point, to get to some revenue. You want to do as many unscalable activities. And this is across GTM, product, people, whatever it may be. You're just going to be doing a whole bunch of unscalable things. That's how it goes. Now, once you do get to some revenues, right? Now, it doesn't mean you have true product market fit, because product market fit is never really a destination. It's a continuous evolution. Product market fit gets better and better. You have to keep finding that fit at every stage of the inflection point. But you at least know that there is a local fit. And now the biggest thing you need to be doing is figuring out, well, how do we get to 1 million ARR? That's this next stage once you've done the unscalable things. And in this stage, what you're really looking to do is, number one, experiment through channels. And number two, find one to scale. So in this stage, you're trying anything and everything, trying to just see what sticks and where the heat is. Once you're over here, you want to actually now start to think about, all right, why did people buy it? How do we actually position and message this? And how do we take out this messaging through key channels, whether it's inbound, social, outbound, whatever it may be? And how do we test across these, see which one works? And we need to find that one channel. Usually to go from some revenues to that million, what you're really looking to do is get to just that one channel that you can really double down on and be an expert in. It could be outbound, it could be ads, it could be SEO, it could be some sort of marketplace, it could be some sort of partner, but you want to find that one channel. Typically, companies that get to million just experiment enough on a number of these things and then find the one that really works and then go scale that. And that gets them to 1 million. That's the key to really understand in this stage. The common pitfall on this stage is to stay scatterbrained, to continue to do unscalable things, hoping you'll get to 1 million, instead of actually running a much more experimental framework, where you're being structured about the channels and measuring and seeing which one works and doubling down on what works. That's the big shift. And if you don't make that shift, in search of that one unfair channel you're great at, then you'll never reach 1 million. And that's super powerful. And the biggest thing over here is you're trying to define a proper go-to-market strategy. If you don't do that, you don't even deserve to earn 1 million ARR. Not in a fast enough time frame, at least. You may get there, but hobble your way there, but you won't get there in time. Suppose you really dominate on that channel and you get to that 1 million ARR. this is a really special point because typically when you get to 1 million ARR and you have quality revenues, you have consistent revenues, you have a consistent use case, you can raise a Series A. So that's why this is super powerful. And you likely will if you get to that million and you have a consistent use case that you're starting to generate revenue with through a consistent channel that you've mastered, you'll get your Series A. That's a big thing that we focus on in the go-to-market coaching program. Once you've done that, then it's about, cool, we have fresh funding. How do we get to 3 million? You're looking to triple. And it seems like, oh, this should be easy, but you're looking to triple your revenue in the next year. Because if you raise Series A, then you probably need to actually triple in the next year. I mean, you may not need to fundraise right away in a year, but you still need to show that kind of growth. And so the question becomes, how do we go to 3 million? In this scenario, a couple of things need to come together. One, you're gonna have to start hiring VPs. And you have to get great at recruiting. And you're gonna have to be able to do this while you're tripling. Meaning you can't slow down the ship, you can't slow down anything. You have to figure out how do you equip people, support people, and put things in place so that you are on track to triple while you are bringing in the leadership that you need to even scale beyond that. And this is one of the crazy catch-22s and pitfalls that come up because the venture treadmill starts once you raise. It takes time to recruit all the VPs to really scale, but at the same time, the timer has started. And so you have to make sure that you are taking all the things that has worked well to get to 1 million and you are scaling it. If there is that one channel that has served you well to get to 1 million, you got to figure out how to continue to scale that and put more money into that. If there was 2 or 3 other channels that were like kind of okay, you need to put in some money to actually put more support into that to make those work. And you need to get to at least 2 to 3 channels so that you actually can generate enough pipeline and get things moving. And while you're doing this, that's kind of your base strategy. You need to start thinking about how to actually get the help that you need in terms of scaling the business, because this is not going to be sustainable. You need to figure out how to get those VPs, but you also can't let the business wait while you're looking for those VPs. So you got to do both. And that's a common pitfall, but you got to that's welcome to startup life. You're going to love it. So that's this inflection point. And in this case, a lot of things are going to be coming together that's very powerful. You're going to start to see a mini brand come together. People are going to just know you. You're going to see more word of mouth come together. Your customers are going to be referring other customers because there's just enough critical mass happening as you head towards 3 million ARR. You're also going to see a competitor. By the time you raise a Series A, you start going to 3 million, there's going to be enough people watching. And you're like, that's a great idea. That's a great underserved market. Nice little business you got there. I bet we can compete. And you're going to have to be ready for that. The other thing you're going to have to get ready for is to get really disciplined about roadmap. And this is a little bit counterintuitive. In this stages, you probably built a bunch of features to placate customers and get the deal. And that's okay, it got you to this point. But you start to hit enough customers and enough demand where if you don't have a professional way of managing your roadmap and keeping your promises and sequencing your promises, then you're gonna be oversubscribed or behind, or worse, have a very buggy product. And so you're gonna have to formalize how you actually collect user requests, put it into a proper roadmap, prioritize the right way, and make sure that you keep pushing out new product, because that's what really matters. And that's what ensures that you stay relevant in the market. And so all of these things are actually happening right at this stage. You are really maturing as a company. And one thing that's gonna happen is that every quarter, your business is gonna feel like a whole different business. A new VP will be added. You'll add more ARR. And if you're going from $1 million to 3 million, then 2 quarters in, you're at least at 2 million. You add another million to your ARR, right? So it's a very different business, and you're gonna be hiring. So you're gonna have to make sure that you understand the pace at which the business is going to change, and make sure you're bringing in the VPs, formalizing your go-to-market channels, scaling them, and taking advantage of all these things that are happening. And that's super, super powerful. All right, let me just pause here for a second, and then we'll finish up on these 2 key inflection points, which are just as important. Are you starting to see the power in this? Are you starting to see the power of, oh my God, there's a lot that happens in this journey, and there's a lot of pitfalls, but if you can just get a little bit ahead of it, and you know that, okay, here's like a broad strokes on some of the big things that are happening, you can better prepare for it. So if you're starting to see the power in this, can I just get a yes in the comments below? Also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really likes it when you do that. And so do we. We put a lot of love into these videos. Now, if you are in the stage where you're building out your SaaS business, I encourage you to also grab a copy of my 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. It's completely free. Just go to getunstoppable.com/strategy. I'll link to it below. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this video. But let's go to this next inflection point. But smash that like button if you haven't already, please. It means the world to us. All right, so here's the fun part. Once you get past 3, you've got some VPs, maybe not all of them. You're tripling. You've got a great roadmap. You got 1 competitor. You got referrals going. Everything's cranking. And if you can hit this 3 million mark point, maybe even like 5, then you start thinking about a Series B. Pretty quickly. Sometimes maybe because you don't need the money, but because there's enough momentum in the business and people will express interest. And so this is where it gets really interesting, because with the Series B, then you're really like, all right, we are really ready. There's clearly product market fit. There's clearly a big enough TAM. There's clearly a momentum. We know how to use these channels to generate more pipeline and close more deals. We have our unfair advantages. We have our mini brands. So it becomes ripe for a Series B. And so that's when you start to think about, all right, how do we raise a Series B? And then how do we continue on to get to 7 million and then 10 million? Now, the jump from 3 to 10 is pretty big. And that's why I put in this 7 million, because this is where a lot of indigestion can happen. And I speak from experience on this. You could end up with indigestion. There are things that could happen. You could miss a quarter. You could have an unfundable year. You could have extreme competitive dynamics. You could have a setback in the market. The reality is, in these earlier stages, some of these things can happen, but your burn's low enough where you can absorb it and course correct and kind of survive. But once you raise a B, generally you are actually cranking up on the burn to aggressively expand and land grab. And so because of that, and that's like kind of par for the course in a lot of cases, different firms want different levels of risk, but that's part of the game. But what's happening here is, because your burn is going to be higher, any one of these little road bumps or multiple ones will hurt more. And so that's why this is a very precarious time for SaaS businesses, because you're cranking up the burn. And at the same time, you're not a young company anymore. So all of a sudden you also have tech debt. You can't ship out features as quickly, right? You have employees that have been at it for a while, so they could be burning out. And you could have made a bad VP hire. And so now you got to swap them out. So all of these things could be happening at this stage, because you're just literally like riding hard for a while, and now you're riding even harder to get to this 10 million. And these pitfalls can happen. And so what do you do about that? Well, the first thing is to just be cognizant that these things can happen. For a lot of the companies that have announced their unicorn status today or decacorn status today, a lot of them had a year where they were unfundable, but their existing investors funded them through. And so it's always important to be having clear discussions with the board on how things are going, how much risk you're taking on, how to mitigate that risk. And in the event that you need to take on debt or a PIPE or an inside round, like it's okay to have those conversations so that everyone's on the same page, because you don't want to die of indigestion here. You also want to preemptively recruit for VPs that you know may be coming up on the end of their runway. And that way you know that you're gonna have to swap some VPs out at every stage of the business. So just do it preemptively and keep recruiting. You know that some employees are gonna get tired. So give them a 3-month sabbatical preemptively so that you can get ahead of it. You know that more and more competitors are gonna come after you because you've just identified this amazing opportunity. And SaaS moats are not that defensible at this early stage. It comes later when you have a true brand and true lock-in. So be prepared for that and think about how we're going to continue to actually be an agile development team to really differentiate our product. So these are all things that you can start to think about a little bit ahead of time, knowing that these things can go wrong as you're going from the 3 million to the 7 to the 10. And that's the power of just knowing all the things that may be coming up. Because in this stage, it's all about the unscalable things. In this stage, it's finding that one channel. In this stage, it's about adding the VPs and diversifying the channels. And in this stage, it's about really pushing on the gas, but watching your downside. And if you can do that, I've seen incredible operators that just stay calm. And even when things go wrong, because they're thinking about these things and they're preemptively preparing, they're able to navigate it. And they're able to stay calm and they're able to still move forward with the best options available. And that's what you want to be doing. So to recap, this is the inflection points that exist in the early stage SaaS founder's journey from year 0, where you got nothing, to your unstoppable 10 million plus ARR. You get to this point, then you're truly unstoppable. But along the way, you really want to chunk it down. How do you get to some revenue through unscalable ways? How do you then get to 1 million by finding the one go-to-market scalable strategy? And then how do you get to 3 million by adding in more channels and then bringing on those VPs? And then how do you make sure you push through this 7 million point to the 10 million, even though some of these things may come up for you and you can plan them accordingly? You do that, you're going to be unstoppable in building and scaling your SaaS business. If you got value from this video, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. I also drop a video like this 2 to 3 times a week on actionable strategies on how to grow your SaaS business from actually being in the trenches. So be sure to the subscribe button and that bell icon, that way you'll get notified. If you are building out your SaaS business, you should have a 1-page written down strategy to grow. I invite you to download my 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide, where I'll instruct you on exactly how to do that. Just go to getunstoppable.com/strategy. It's completely free. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business, but when you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode.